Day one of the NFL Combine is in the books, or at least day one in terms of the drills. The defensive linemen, both ends and tackles, and linebackers doing their testing and drills today. We're going to break down some of the winners and losers. Before we get into that, if you want more videos on the winners and losers from the NFL Combine from us here at Chat Sports, then share today's video. We are the last ones in the building outside of the cleanup crew here at Radio Row at the Combine. So help us make it worth our while. Share today's video for me in the comments, or by sharing it on Twitter, Facebook, text it to a buddy, whatever. Help us out that share right now. Let's go through some of the winners. We'll start positive here. We won't get to every single player because that's too long of a video. All right, first up is Chop Robinson, the pass rusher here out of Penn State. Known best for his explosive get-off. That certainly translated to the 40-yard dash and drills coming up today here. So what you see here are the relative athletic scores. Shout out to my guy MathBomb on Twitter. He posts these, does the numbers, kind of adjusted for size and compared to positions as well. So not the biggest player, Chop Robinson, checked in at 6'2", almost 6'3", 254 pounds. Good enough arm length, 32 and a half inch arms right there. How about a 4.48 40-yard dash, a 10-yard split of 1.54. That is still unofficial. Great explosive numbers. If you want a gifted athlete, Robinson fits that mold. We knew that coming in. We won't count it twice, but it's still worth mentioning. Let's go to some more passers here. Jared Verse out of Florida State. First off, these FSU boys are athletic. We're not even getting to Kalen DeLoach, who ran a great 40, was kind of okay in the other drills there. Verse tested quite well, and if you didn't think he was a first-round pick, I don't really know what you were watching. Just under 6'4", 33.5-inch arms as well, 4.58, good vert, good broad. Not the best agility. I will give him credit for doing it. Not that many guys are running the shuttles and three cones anymore. They've almost opted out of that and focused almost solely on the explosive drills, the vertical and the broad, and the 40 versus a top 20-ish pick. Another first-round edge on this in a class that doesn't have that many freaky athletes at the position. Latu was good enough relative to his size, etc. Almost 6'5", 259, so solid mass there. The vert and the broad weren't that great. He did kind of save it a little bit with some nice 40-yard dash times there. Good arm length as well. I didn't think he was going to be a freak athlete. I would have been really kind of shocked if he had tested incredibly well, but he tested well enough to justify that first-round pick. For Latu, and another guy we'll get to here in a little bit, the Combine's going to come down to those medicals. The medicals are going to be critical in terms of where he actually goes in this year's NFL draft. Let's go to Alabama defensive end / pass rusher, outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, whatever you want to call it, Dallas Turner. Wow, what a performance out of the Alabama edge. Look at these numbers here. Not the biggest guy getting. He's 6'2" and change, 247. That's kind of light. 4.46 40-yard dash. The same 10-yard split as Chop Robinson, by the way. 40.5-inch vert and a 10.0 some broad. So that's 10 feet, 7 inches on the broad jump right there. You see that 9.92 number there? What we're talking about here is basically, overall among athletes, we're thinking 94.9 percentile among defensive ends. Now, more and more, it's coming up green a lot because it's historical. So you'll see some yellow and red numbers in the days of old. With that testing, what we saw in film from Dallas Turner, I think he's your first pass rusher, first defensive player, maybe even off the board. Who do you think that ends up being? It's the pinned comment on today's video. First defensive player taken in the 2024 NFL Draft. The ad comes on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. Let's hit some linebackers here. Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M, one of the few top linebackers to do enough of the drills the testing as far as I'm concerned. Here are his numbers. Again, you want to see green, and you see some green. 4.51 40-yard dash for 6'2", 230. I didn't think he'd be that big. It's fine. Good length, great length, though. 34-inch arms. That's something I want to see him be better with, is utilizing that length. But he has it. The vert and broad are good enough when the speed is at the elite level. Maybe no one was more impressive and no one was faster today than Payton Wilson, the linebacker out of NC State. Awesome testing here. I'd comped him to Sean Lee, because he's the really, really good linebacker with massive medical red flags. We're talking double-digit surgeries for Payton Wilson, by the way, folks. So, again, the combine win or loss will be based on what the medicals turn up there. Checked in at 4.43 on the official times from NFL or from the NFL Network there. Just a shade under 6'4", 233, which is bigger than some of these guys. The length is not great. He doesn't have the best arm length there, but the vert, the broad, and that 40, that's wildly impressive. We'll go to one more linebacker here, Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. Now, again, the film is always more important, so some of the awareness lapses remain, but he can run, he can play. That's valuable in the NFL, right? Again, not the biggest guy, bit heavier. He's more of a stocky build, 6'1", 237, 4'5", 140, 37.5-inch vert, 10.07 broad. Really great athletic testing for Trevin Wallace. Someone put him in a first-round mock draft I saw. That's not going to happen. But day 2, worst case, early day 3, someone's going to take a shot on this very, very talented and athletically gifted Kentucky off-ball linebacker. Now, you guys shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, whether that is sports, concert, theater, comedy, whatever. Gametime has you guys covered. A couple things I like overall about Gametime. I like you can see the view from your seat. I want to know what my view is because you don't want to go in that blind necessarily. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. They've also got flash deals, sponsored deals, and zone deals on tickets. The zone deals, by the way, I love. You saw it for I saw it for Mavs Pacers the other week. You'll see them throughout your various events you can go to. Basically, you pick the section, and Gametime's going to pick the seat for you. So instead of picking between 7 and 13, which who really cares what seat number you're in, you get on average 18% savings. I saw 20% for one of the Mavs games. That's a no-brainer. Save money in the process. And speaking of saving money, you download the Gametime app, create your account, and use code NFL-CHAT. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's promo code NFL-CHAT over at Gametime.co. That link will be in the comments section and the description of today's video. Again, appreciate Gametime sponsoring us here at NFL Daily. Maybe you're trying to go to a baseball game with that just around the corner. Gametime is the way to go. Let's go to Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle out of Texas. Now, there was people who thought, this could be one of the bigger winners from this year's combine. He's going to test really well. And make no mistake, he did test very well. Murphy is not the biggest player. He checked in at 6'1", 297, so just smaller DT. Good arm length though, over 32 and or at 32 and 3/8 inches there. I was almost hoping for better times. It's all and you hear me, complaining about a 300-pound guy who ran a 4.87. I wondered if he could have gone in the low 4.8s or even just cracked that 4.7 range. But again, I'm talking 95th percentile here. Great vert, break broad. He is a dark horse. I don't think it's going to happen with a dark horse to be the first defensive player taken. I think will end up being a first-round pick in this year's class. Who is the biggest winner from day 1 of the NFL Combine? Get those answers in for me in the comment section right now. What player or players who have been an overachiever do you think was the single biggest winner today, or I guess tonight? I think the correct answer here is Braden Fiske, the defensive lineman out of Florida State, too. He was on the tables here, not the podium at the Combine, and I made a comment to, I forget who it was. I'm like, I don't know why he's at the table. He should not be at a table. And he had the best Combine performance of anybody tonight. Defensive tackle at FSU, 6'4", 292, 4.7, 840. Did do the shuttle, ran a 4.37 in that short shuttle. 10-yard split was awesome. The broad was 9.09. The vert was 33.5. Unbelievably freak out. Again, we're talking 99.7 percentile here. That's what the RAS scores out of 10. Now, the length is not the best necessarily. He was great at the Senior Bowl. This somehow continues to be an undervalued prospect. We talk about him being one of our Senior Bowl winners. He was the player of the week, too. I think day 2 is where this kid needs to be drafted. Someone's going to get a damn good football player. More DT talk here. Ruke Orhorhoro out of Clemson. Again, the first R is basically silent. Just pretend it's not there. Maybe compared to Braden Fiske, not the best testing, but it's still really damn good. Again, awesome RAF score numbers here from my guy at MathBomb. 6'4", 294, sub 4.940, checks off that box. 908 broad, 32-inch vert, 3 technique type of player, kind of like Fiske is. I don't know if Orhorhoro can potentially play DE like I think Fiske maybe too. By the way, Fiske was still an 8.82 if you count him as a defensive end. So really great testing there. 3 technique though for Orhorhoro. Marshawn Kneeland is next up here. No math bomb score. He had him as a DT. He's going to play edge though. The Western Michigan prospect. Not the best 40-yard dash, but how about this? Fastest 3-cone and the fastest short shuttle. So the burst and agility stand out right there for Kneeland. I hope he was going to test a little bit better in the 40 because I thought he could have really blown it up, but he did have a very good combine showing as well. Next up is Myles Cole out of Texas Tech. We made a big deal correctly out of Braden Fiske and how well he tested. Cole, meanwhile, had a pretty damn good day, at least on the field. More on that in a minute. 9.96 on the RAS side of things, 4.67 40-yard dash, 6'6", 278. So that just screams, defensive end, base defensive. Maybe we can do some 5 technique stuff for you. Great vert, great grod. What was interesting, I did not go up and talk to him, but I did talk to someone who did, Nick Harris of Cowboys.com. Apparently, Myles Cole refused to talk to anybody at the combine. Just didn't respond, and at one point the NFL combine handlers tried to give him advice and he just ignored them. So that was interesting. Makes me a little bit concerned about how his how his interviews went, but athletically, that guy's going to get drafted probably at some point early on day 3. We'll have more NFL Combine coverage for you guys right here at Chat Sports. So if you haven't already, please make sure you guys are subscribed. Tomorrow we will have defensive backs and tight ends testing. And, of course, we'll have some interviews. Caleb Williams, the quarterback, going to speak, plus some more. Hit that sub button right now. Before we get to the losers, 3 players I want to mention that they weren't really winners and they weren't really losers for me either. Some pros and cons here. T'Vondre Sweat, McKinley Jackson, Darius Robinson. Let's start with Sweat. First off, by far the best interview I've had so far here at the Combine. Hilarious person. Massive human being as well. 366 pounds at 6'4.5". Great arm length. But as you might expect for a 366-pound guy, he's just not very fast. Now, at a certain point, with nose guards in general, and we'll get to McKinley Jackson, who falls in the same category here momentarily, there's diminishing returns. 366 versus 333 is a big size difference. That's 30 pounds. But at a certain point, you're not benefiting on these metric scales unless you test really well. T'Vondre Sweat did not. I would argue that when you're in the 30th percentile for 40-yard dash, 99th for size, that's still a pretty good ratio, all things considered. He's not but he's not the Jordan Davis type athlete. With that said, day 2, take him as a run stopper. McKinley Jackson falls in a similar category here. Not as big, kind of tested pretty poorly. Well, that hurt. Terrible. He did do some of those almost coverage drills, which the change of direction drills where they're backpedaling and trying to adjust, and it was kind of hilarious because he's 326 pounds. It's not his game. He's never going to do it in the NFL. But again, the nose guards typically don't measure well. That's why it's so insane what Jordan Davis did a few seasons ago. These guys shouldn't change their draft stock too much. And you think Price and Darius Robinson here go 9.64. Tom, why isn't he a winner? He ran a 4.95. He's 6'5", 285. He's 35-inch vert. Awesome arm length. He's huge. All of those things are true. The difference is a 9.64 at defensive tackle and a 6.26 at defensive end. I am concerned that Robinson falls into too much of a tweener category. Is he a DT? Is he a defensive end? I think 5 techniques your answer there, but that's not utilized as much. I have tweener concerns there. I did like the film. I thought the Senior Bowl was really impressive, but my concern is he's going to have to still play more on the inside than on the end, at least especially on pass rushing downs, where at times I thought he was a better pass rusher at defensive end. And I don't know, that's just that's a tough one for me in terms of that eval. All right, on to the losers. First up, unfortunately, is Austin. In life, there are losers. Deal with it. Cry about it in the comments if you need to. I like Austin Booker quite a bit. I think he is a sleeper. I thought he was going to test a lot better than this. He didn't test badly, by the way. 7.36 is still above average, but 6'4.5", 240. you're barely cracking 4.8. You had a great broad, an okay vert. I was hoping for some really like I was hoping to have not maybe not Braden Fiske, but like oh have a higher end testing. So I'm not out on Austin Booker. I had higher expectations than what we got to in the end. Bralen Trice is next up here. He weighed in at 245, and that was significantly lower than what he was playing at Washington, and what he was listed nearly 30 pounds heavier. I think he only played about 20 pounds heavier from the info I've gathered, but he tried to drop weight to test better. Didn't really happen. 4.7, 240, 1.65 10, but that's fine. But he didn't do any of the agilities, the drills he looked fine in, but I think he tried to drop weight to test better, and that didn't happen. And now you're kind of coming in light when you were a power player to begin with. That's always a concern for me. So name a day one combine loser here. You can say me if you want to. That's fine. I won't take offense to it. Sound off in the comments section. All right, finally, some linebackers not doing testing. Now, Junior Colson had the wrap on his hand at the championship game, so maybe that's why. But 5 linebackers not doing the full test. Some did a couple of tests here. It's Junior Colson, who I think that might have been medical, so that's fine by me. Jalen Ford out of Texas, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson, which I have concerns about athletically. That's a red flag because if you're not doing anything unless there's some unknown medical, which happens. Talked to some guys today who said they weren't going to run because they tweaked something, which it happens. Tyron Hopper, Tommy Eichenberg. I wanted to see those guys test. I value the testing in my metrics. They'll be fine. It's not going to make them undraftable or anything, but I just would have liked to have seen it.